What if I told you that some of the world's most inspiring business stories that you've heard that have motivated you to get through tough times or even start your business in the first place never actually happened? Now, it's kind of crazy because we hear these amazing stories all the time, whether it's on a podcast, whether it's in a book, whether it's on social media. There are incredible stories that are rags to riches, underdog stories, all this kind of stuff that are just incredible. And you see that the finished product and the person just being the most successful person in the world, all from this really great storytelling perspective. But what if I was to tell you that that didn't actually happen? This video explores 5 really interesting classic entrepreneurial stories that never actually happened and the actual truth behind them. And I'm doing this so that you can realise what's real and what's not out there, but also help you find your own inspiration along the way. So this first story takes you right back, and that was a deliberate pun, to back in the day when the airplane was first invented. So I am talking about those famous Wright Brothers. Now, if you've ever read any book containing the story about the Wright Brothers, you will have been told that they are these 2 random bros, literally bros, who, you know, they had no money, they were in their garage, they're just bicycle mechanics, and they just happened to invent the first airplane by magic because they were just like working really hard, and it's this kind of passion story because they had a passion for aerodynamics, and they were just like, you know, in their garage making the airplane from wooden scraps of metal. In all the books I've read, they were up against this guy called Langley, who was the secretary of the Smithsonian, for God's sakes, and he had direct funding from the US government. So like he had all these millions of dollars, and like these Wright brothers had no money, and they were in their garage, no skills, and this guy who was really accomplished, you know, all these qualifications, and the Wright brothers still somehow got there before this other Langley guy. And this was a story that I understood, and it's supposed to be like a classic underdog story, to show that, you know, even if you don't have what it takes at the beginning, but you can really, really fight, and you could still manage to get to your goal with the right attitude and the passion and the gumption and all that kind of stuff. That's all a myth. The truth? These 2 guys were actually mechanics. They had also been studying for years about aerodynamics. They were experts in this area. They were incredible, and they had a team all over the world working on this project with them. It wasn't just these 2 guys. They had experts everywhere, and, you know, and actually, in fact, the government did show them interest, but they actually wanted to see a proof of concept first. Now, if you think about it, realistically, we must know that this is true, because how are 2 random people in a garage going to just invent the airplane and like that just happened? It doesn't happen like that. You have to be experts at what you do. It reminds me of all these classic overnight success stories that we keep hearing of. We hear someone just go viral one day with a YouTube video, i.e. Mr. Beast. One day goes viral, he's an overnight success. They forgot that he'd been doing it for 10 years and no one watched any of his videos. So people don't see what goes on behind closed doors. These guys have been studying for years and years and years themselves, building it up. Sure, they may not have had the official qualifications that the other guys did, but they dedicated years and years of their lives to this vocation, and it paid off, right? So I think that there's a lot to be said about these sort of tales, and I think whilst it was a nice kind of underdog story, the truth wasn't quite what it was, and it misleads people to think that anyone can do anything. So let's do another age-old tale, the tale of Colonel Sanders. That's right, the guy who invented KFC. So he apparently was broke, like, you know, tired, exhausted, and he went around knocking on everyone's doors trying to sell his secret recipe for this delicious fried chicken. And he apparently got rejected 1,009 times before someone said yes. That is crazy. But that is also bullshit. This number has just been plucked out of thin air. That doesn't exist. He he even admitted himself that he got there really quickly. He actually started licensing his restaurants and grew his franchise within just a couple of years. But the fact that he was over 60 showed that he'd started late, and so people made up this narrative that he'd been going on for years and years and years and getting rejected consistently to kind of create this perseverance and resilience story of how, like, age ain't nothing but a number. You can keep doing it. You can find success at any age, and, like, you know, you keep hearing those no's, but you'll finally get a yes, and look how great it will turn out. That number is made up. And as I said, he found his success pretty quickly. But the story's nice anyway, and obviously it is amazing that he did manage to do this in such a late stage of his life. And I think this story's even more potent now when everyone seems to be younger and younger as an entrepreneur. So for those who are older and starting to feel a bit intimidated by the fact that everyone seems to be a tween who's now starting a business, then it's never too late for you, because Colonel Sanders did start really late. He didn't get rejected 1,009 times, but he did start in his 60s and he managed to find success, so you can too. So let's go to the world's most loved entrepreneur, I'd say, and the world's most popular company in terms of branding and buzz, I'd say, as well. I'm talking about Steve Jobs and Apple. Now, the story we all know is that Steve Jobs and Woz decided to start their business in their famous garage. This little tiny garage in their parents' house, and that's where all the magic happened. No money, no resources, just pure genius, pure hustle. And they were able to have this classic startup garage story where they started this little startup and they became the world's most successful company, all from their little garage. Bullshit. It's crazy how this one actually came about, and everyone just believes it. And there are pictures of them in their garage, and I know you're gonna be like, well, I've seen their pictures, they must be true. No, so Woz actually did an interview for Business Week and told everyone this garage was just like a symbolism of what they did. No work was actually done in there. No prototyping, no actual brainstorming, none of it was done in there.
The garage is a bit of a myth. It's overblown. The garage represents us better than anything else, but we did no designs there, no breadboarding, no prototyping, no planning of products. We did no manufacturing there. I designed the Apple One in my cubicle at Hewlett-Packard and in my apartment. We would drive the finished products to the garage. Maybe half a day a week was all we needed.
The first prototype for the Macintosh was actually done at Woz's work at Atari, which is crazy. And they actually had success from very early on. They actually got an investment for $250,000. Now think about that money back then and realise what a substantial amount of money that is. So they weren't this rags to riches story either, really. They had early investment right from the get-go to be able to make their dream come true. Even the most successful company in the entire world has a glorified story attached to it for nostalgic value, but actually all of that's bullshit too. So let's get a bit more modern and change gears a little bit. I'm going to talk about J.K. Rowling. Yes, the author of the absolutely hit book series Harry Potter. Now we all know about how she went round all the different cafes in Edinburgh and just sat there and wrote Harry Potter, and she slaved away on this book for years, and then she really got rejected hundreds and hundreds of times from publishers all over the world, and no one thought her book idea was good enough until one day she finally got published. Bullshit. So in reality, J.K. Rowling actually only got rejected 12 times. Now, that might seem like a lot because no one likes rejection, and to get hear a no 12 times is pretty painful. But in the publishing world, this is a very normal number. Like, she was unheard of. This was her first book, and, you know, it's a strange kind of concept at the time. And so 12 times is a normal number to be rejected. But this number was so inflated to try and, again, build up this success and of resilience and say that you never give up, because if you constantly get rejected, you could become the world's best author and things like that. So again, bullshit, But we are obviously very glad that she got accepted in the end, and it shows you that you just got to be persistent. But 12 times is actually not that much. And I think that what it shows is that in anything in life, you've got to be resilient to rejection, and you've got to learn to take rejection as a part of the process towards success, because without rejection, you're not going to see success. So you do need to keep learning to hear those no's. And I think that sometimes people give up after the first couple of no's, and that's why that number was exaggerated for effect, to show, look, you've got to keep on doing it, because not many people can actually get through saying the no's of 12 times anyway to get that success. And for her, it was lucky number 13. And so my last example is Oprah Winfrey, the woman who got fired from her job and was told she was not fit for television. She defeated all the odds and became the biggest TV star ever. It's a classic tragedy to triumph story, right? Her resilience, her character overcame all those odds, and she was able to get through it despite all the adversity she faced. Sorry, but that's bullshit again. She was actually a news anchor, and she got moved to become the host of a daytime TV show. So she literally got moved jobs. She didn't get fired. And that is actually a major promotion. So they made it sound like it was a big setback in her career, but actually it was probably the start of her career, and it's what made her to who she is today. So even Oprah, the most successful female entrepreneur of all time, she even has this underdog story. Now, don't get me wrong, she has had a lot of crap in her life, and she has had to overcome some of the biggest adversity I've ever known for anyone to overcome, and what she's achieved is absolutely phenomenal. But that story about her being fired and told she's not fit for television is absolute bullshit. So remember that a lot of these things that you hear are for effect. They're for the storytelling purposes. They are to push an agenda and a narrative. So remember, you cannot always believe what you hear and take it like as it is and try to use the same thing in your life and expect the same results. Everyone is different, and remember, at the end of the day, it is all about storytelling. So I haven't picked those stories just to be like, there's so much bullshit out there, because we already know there is. But it's really just to make you realise that a lot of what you hear isn't true. There are a lot of social media quotes that are going around every single day that are motivational and inspiring, but none of them were actually ever said. I know this because I've put some up that I've recycled that I think are great, and they get taken down because someone says, no one actually said that. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, so you realise that, yes, there's a lot of bullshit out there, but it shows that you don't actually need an inspiring story to motivate you. You can just create your own. So however you're feeling, and if you need a bit of inspiration in your life, why not try creating your own inspiring story? You can literally make one up. That's what these are basically. What would you like your life to look like? What do you want your story to be told later on? Try writing it, and maybe you can actually make it happen for real.